More fun than a punch in the throat. It's Sanctuary of Reality, my comic review series. Right now, we're looking at Church and State, Chapter 4, Cerebus, Issue 55, Origin of the Wolveroach, Part 2, The Y and the R. Wolveroach beats Vichy Dupree to a pulp before Cerebus and the Countess can stop him. While she takes care of Vichy, she has Cerebus go over and talk to the Roach. He tries to get them to see that Weishaupt is manipulating him again, but all he cares about is smoking a wad of matchsticks and proclaiming variations on exciting cover blurbs and issue titles. Unable to get through to him, Cerebus returns to the Countess, who's frustrated with having to do everything, and blows up at him. So Cerebus goes and writes some more on governing, discussing power. The Countess eventually discovers Wolveroach is missing, and when some new Separan soldiers come to her door, they reveal that Wolveroach is next door at the Easton embassy, trying to kill the ambassador. The news of their intention of shooting him full of crossbow bolts upsets the Countess, so she sits down and asks Cerebus more about the girlfriend he nearly married, learning that they both had the same name. The next day, Cerebus and the Countess, having fallen asleep on the couch waiting, are surprised when Wolveroach returns unharmed after a lengthy battle. But he feels scorned and betrayed by the Countess. What dramatic action will this lead him to do now? If you want to find out more about the other Michelle, Cerebus' girlfriend when he was 18, check out Breaking Up is Hard to Do in the anthology Anything Goes. I suppose I could cover it on here, and maybe I'll find a spot for it, but it's mostly prose and takes place in the past, so I'd recommend you check it out yourself. I initially hated that most of the Wolveroach's actions happen off screen, but then I realized, that's what really made this book, particularly at this point, the tagline for the book was "like no other comic," and I think that really made it like that, like no other comics, because so many comics at this point in history were really about showing you the action in every detail. It was all the books were really about. You get some little minor subplot, and then you get a lot of action. So this one really deals with the repercussions and the real human side of the events that go on. Not that Dave isn't capable of doing action. For instance, he'll do it spectacularly during the mothers and daughters storyline with one of my favorite fights of all time, which is done gorgeously and incredibly. But there's something far funnier and more original in having all of these fights told secondhand through Wolveroach and his blurbs that he speaks in. I think it works a lot better that way. This is a good issue. A little less meandering than the last issue was, and it actually does feel like things are moving forward, things are progressing, but the overarching plot doesn't budge one bit. Last issue, at least, we had something coming on. We had Weishaupt setting things up. And that's important for later. But this one, it doesn't even bother with that. Just this continuation of the Countess and Wolveroach stuff, which isn't really important for the overarching plot. But it's good enough for me, though. I mean, I like both of those characters. So it's a good issue, but it's not that great a chapter of Church and State in terms of importance to Church and State. Though, spoiler warning, Countess and the Wolveroach, or the Roach, will be back in Church and State 2, and they'll be more important then. They'll be back next issue as well, but yeah, they'll be more important in Church and State 2 than they are to Church and State 1. Next time, the return of a previously thought dead character.